Welcome to another edition of Apollo Sports Council Incorporated YouTube Talk. I'm Brian Armstead.
Jelani Sutton.
I'm Noel Reimer.
Hey, man, we happy to have y'all, man. My track stars out there, my track runners out there, man. Welcome to Track and Anxiety. I have a special guest with me. He's already introduced himself, but this guy right here was a monster at track. I'm talking about he went to the best high school in Gwinnett County. Shout out to Shiloh High School. But tell me a little bit about yourself, Noel.
So I'm Noel Reimer. I ran, like you said, I went to ran track at Shiloh High School, and I moved on to Kennesaw State, running on the collegiate level. My accolades go not super existent. I mean, super like outstanding. But I got All-American status. Won some state championships, conference titles. Pretty well versed in the whole track arena. So, I'm happy to come and give my insight on it.
Hey, humble guy, man. Humble guy, man. But, today we want to talk about anxiety, man. We want to dive into anxiety and how that relates to track. All right, so like I said before, man, I want to really, I kind of gave anxiety a nickname, and I kind of called it, your body's response to a fearful future. Remember that? Body's response to a fearful future. And so really, it's almost like not knowing how you're going to compete, right? How you're going to perform. And it's you want to do well, but you kind of are thinking about the work you put in and how your body is going to respond to the work you put in based off the performance that you give during your race. So, Noel, from a track perspective, like what are some things that a track runner could be anxious about based off the work that they put in?
It ranges. This is very, very like a wide range of things that it goes into a track runner's mind. So. The main thing I would say is just the workout and the performance. Mm-hmm. Is wondering if it's going to equate to running your race. Mm-hmm. Track is a very independent sport. Mm-hmm. You have your relays and your team championships and stuff that you kind of lean back on your teammates' support and stuff. But for the most part, it's very representative of your individual work. So when you're running your races, you may be running, your mind may be racing, thinking, did I put enough work into, am I going to reach my goals? So all these things equate to, a build-up in anxiety for a lot of track runners.
And that's a key component of having anxiety, too, when your mind is racing and your thoughts are just going all over the place. Jelani, from a father's perspective, what are some things that your son has experienced, while running track?
Well, I think for me, from a father's standpoint, my son struggled with high levels of anxiety just trying to keep up with his RPOs and his numbers in the 100 and 200. And just wanting to know if he's doing everything right to be best at what he's doing. And just want to be outstanding in terms to statewide, running with other athletes and staying on top of his game. And it kind of flustered and bothered him a lot in regards to that, whether it got him to a place where he didn't want to run track anymore in his senior year. That's where it got him to a place where he just didn't want to do it. He didn't want to put in the work anymore because of the rigors of the training, the tear down of his body, not knowing how to manage his body, how to strengthen his body and things like that, but also wanting to excel on the track.
Absolutely. Is that some things that you may have competed with as well?
Definitely, yeah. A lot of teammates that I know definitely experience a lot of those kind of mental factors especially when it comes to running in the big scenes and big races. Any kind of injury traumas, recovering from that, you're wondering if you're gonna re-injure yourself. That causes a high level of anxiety for a lot of track runners. Keeping up with other teammates or opponents, other teams, and the demands of your coaches sometimes may sound unreasonable, but for the most part, I think getting a good head on your shoulders and understanding, realizing that you just overthinking helps a lot.
What do you think about just for athletes that are seniors and juniors, and I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, those that are seniors and juniors and things like that, and wanting to go to the next level and compete in college and things, the level of anxiety in terms to not feeling they putting out enough?
Okay. There's a lot of In terms of like not putting enough energy into you're getting the result you want.
The result you want, or getting the looks that you want.
Exposure.
Just premium exposure. As
Right.
an athlete, you may be getting all the exposure, but I'm doing enough, but I'm not getting the exposure that is needed from potential colleges, or maybe where that I want to go to.
Oh yeah, that's something that definitely causes a lot of anxiety, especially for our athletes transitioning into the college or trying to get into maybe a D1 school or D2 school. Reaching out to schools is definitely a good solution for that. Talking to your coaches, making sure they're doing everything on their part, but having a lot of confidence in yourself as well, and trusting the process is very important, and helping those junior and senior athletes trying to work through that.
You mentioned something earlier. You mentioned about the teammates, right? And that point for me is very important because, they did a survey and they interviewed certain certified athletic trainers. And what they said was 85% of the athletes that they work with experience anxiety before their races, before their games, before anything, their matches, right? And that's a lot. That's a lot. That's almost 100%, right? Now, a proven fact is that 67% of all athletes experience anxiety. Again, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's 2/3 of an entire team. Mm-hmm. So from a track runner's perspective, what are some things that before races that you might experience? So for football, I know you might see the guys on the sideline jumping, and while they're jumping, it looks cool. It looks like they're getting pumped and ready, but their heart is beating in and out of their chest. So from a track runner's perspective, what are some things that track runners may go through before races that may be symptoms of anxiety for them?
So in track runner, we usually have like a warm-up routine, and sometimes you may see somebody just over warming up. That's a big visual symptom, or like a way you can determine if your teammate may be, they're in their own world. You might think they're just going hard on their warm-ups, but a lot of times they're really nervous about the upcoming race, all the way up until the point where they're on the line and they're shooting the guns, and it affects their performance. So maybe going up to them and talking to them, and just getting their input on that is a big way to like kind of realize that they may that's a visual kind of symptom. Another thing, they're not even warming up. They just maybe in their own world, just relaxing, or they're trying not to think about the race, or they're not doing the proper warm-up or preparation for the race. Listening to music is a good way to actually relieve that. But, if you just go off in your corner and listen to music, that's not going to help you for your race. So always talk to your coach if you're dealing with those kind of like thoughts, basically.
Well, I'm glad you had just said that, talk to your coach. That was my next question, is that for a student athlete, was there on a high school level, was there outlets for you to be able to go and talk to someone and get the resources or the assistance that you needed when you struggled through those situations, or was there platforms put in place to be able to assist you at that time, meaning small group meetings where that y'all talked about self-care and things of those nature, so that to try to assist you all with dealing with certain situations, and also effective communication in terms of your life, just making sure that you're okay. Wellness days. That was something that I didn't see when I was in high school and I played high school sports. We didn't have those things. We just had a meeting, practice, lunch, game. That's what we had. So for me, I'm just asking, did you all have those types of things?
Me personally, I was privileged to have a coach who did care about my performance and my life off the track. So I always had somebody to kind of go talk to if I needed to. But I am aware that maybe some kids, like children or students in schools, might not have a good coach or a good outlet for that kind of emotional release or expression. But there are, like nowadays, there are online platforms where local forums where track athletes just give their perspective and how they handle their particular maybe depression or how their buildup of stress in general. or just kind of just journaling on your own, or taking mental notes and becoming aware of what triggers you have for your particular stress buildup.
So I remember when I was playing baseball a lot in high school and college, and one thing that used to get me was, Jelani, you probably gonna laugh at this too. I used to go to sleep before games.
Yeah.
But I used to go to sleep not like in the locker room or like an hour before the game and then come out and warm up. I used to go to sleep like before we threw out the first pitch for like 5 minutes. Like just a little in the dugout.
Just to gather
just to gather myself. But that was able to slow my mind down and help my physical performance because my mental was intact.
Yeah.
Right. So from a track perspective, is there anything in terms of mindfulness activities, whether that's deep breathing, or whether that's maybe going to sleep for a little bit like I did, or talking to a certain person before? I know a lot of guys, they like to call their girlfriends, or they like to call their mothers, call their grandmothers, because that voice just calms them down. So from a track perspective, is there anything that track runners can do, or is there anything that you've seen done to kind of gather themselves before the race and slow their mind down?
Taking those proper warm-up procedures your coach may instruct you to do. If you do them by the book, a lot of the times they help you. They're not really exercises to raise your heart rate. They're exercises to calm your heart rate. And if following those by the textbook or usually even the simple warm-ups you may do before practice, if your coach doesn't have a certain sign of a certain set of like exercises for you to do. Like do simple exercises, jog around a warm-up area. In terms of talking to somebody and my relay people, develop relationships with your teammates so y'all can be on the same page and before a relay or a race may start. Talking to somebody is a very good thing, a very good way to lower your stress and feel confident before you're going into a race.
Yeah, I felt the same way too. For me, what I did was I enjoyed the time with the strengthening coach, getting taped up, getting my hamstrings rubbed out, my shoulders and things like that rubbed on, and getting me loose. That was my time for myself. And then when I put my pads on and went out on the field, I needed just time for myself. I didn't do team stretches and things together with the team as much. I did mine sometimes by myself to get myself in a mental state of mind for myself, to get me in a place where I'm calm and cool, where that I'm ready to be able to deal with certain things and be able to know how to handle a play or run a play and things like that. That worked for me. And then I came together as one with the team. That's how I handle my anxiety and things on the field. I do understand where you're coming from.
Absolutely.
It's a good strategy.
Yeah. So, you mentioned to us that you ran, a number of events, right? It wasn't just one specific event. So my question is, do you think that the level of anxiety that one may face could be dependent upon the event that they run? Like, for example, if somebody runs the 100 and they know that it's strictly on them to get the fastest time they can, the fastest PR, or somebody who runs the 4x4 and you the last leg, right? Or you first leg, you got started off, or you run the 800. I mean, so is it your level of anxiety based upon the event that you run, or is it pretty much relatively the same?
A good question. I think that depends on maybe the person, more of how they are towards maybe teamwork, or for me personally, I wouldn't really experience any kind of anxiety before my individual events. I would actually experience way more anxiety during relays, and like you said, I was first leg for a lot of races, so I knew it was on me to set the pace for the race. If I came in last or in a bad position, it would discourage my teammates. So I could relate well to that question. It depends on the person, and I also would say it depends on the stage you're running on too, or what you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to PR, if you're trying to just qualify for the next round or reach a certain goal, all those kind of factors determine how much anxiety you have just before the race, or basically that person.
Yeah, I think for me, for my son, watching him go through his little ordeal was his level of anxiety came with who he ran against, what school did he run against, and he always ran the first heat. And so those were the headbangers, those were the big names, and so new in the state of Georgia and things of that nature, and getting thrown out there, getting thrown in the first and the second heat, you ran with the top guys. Mm-hmm. And so that was his thing, and where that he felt that he had to give more, in which that level of anxiety that he had ended up hurting him because he didn't discipline himself enough to condition his body the way it needed to, stretch his body the proper way, which ended up leading to what? A pulled muscle, a hamstring, injuries. And so, those high levels of anxiety. So, yeah, that you spot on in regards to that. I can relate to that from a father's standpoint and from an athletic standpoint.
Jelani, in terms of having a son, right, who runs track, or a child in general, right, what are some things that you think a coach or a parent or somebody or guardian of that child should tell that person before a race, right?
Well, I think for me is that by me being an athlete, mm-hmm. and my sons are athletes, I talk to them about seizing the moment, taking advantage of the moment, not allowing the moment to take advantage of him. Use that anxiety and use it to fuel his speed, to fuel his form. Embrace it, because it can push you or it can break you. So you got to find a way to balance it out so that you can stay in your lane, mm-hmm. to be able to achieve, and that's in any level: football, baseball, basketball. My son played football. I used to tell him all the time that too, as a safety that's coming down and blitzing. If your anxiety is to a certain level and you are jumping across the line before the ball is snapped, you have no control. That's a false start. So are you helping or hurting? You're hurting. Same way with track. Mm-hmm. You jump out of the blocks too early. What happens? You're hurting yourself. So, for me as a parent, I think that for those that are guardians or their children are planning these sports, they need to have that conversation and that dialogue with their children about how to be able to take control of that anxiety, find a safe space for them, find a place where they can box it up and then release it before they hit the stage. Because if they don't, it tends to take you off your strategy and take you off your course of where you're trying to go and what you're trying to do.
That's exactly right. That's real. So, Noel, from a track runner's perspective, right? What do track runners enjoy hearing before races? Like, what are some things that they enjoy? Maybe that could calm or ease the anxiety, maybe decrease it a little bit before the race. What are some things that you all enjoy hearing of?
Well, track is a real clear-cut sport. Either you got the time to beat somebody or you don't. Mm-hmm. But trusting in your abilities and your training is usually like somebody kind of just confirming or like giving you an affirmation or any kind of indicator that it's going to work. Is usually the advice that you need. If you have faster times, just use that. Simply that. Any kind of confidence that you can have going into the race. That was my number one thing to ease my anxiety. Is knowing that we had the abilities, I had the proper training, the proper procedures, and proper warm-ups. And the strategy as well. Going into the race, some races have different strategies, especially with some of the longer distance ones. You break up your race into different parts. Be mindful of all those things going into the race and have that upper hand. And that it helps you tremendously.
Absolutely, guys. And so we want you guys to understand as track runners, if you are experiencing some of the symptoms of anxiety, and some of those symptoms include sweating, right? Excessively sweating. You ever feel your palms sweating? Or you're getting dizzy. Sometimes one of the symptoms of anxiety is when you are feeling anxiety, your peripheral vision becomes totally blocked out, and you tend to focus on what's only in front of you when you block out whatever is outside of your actual vision. It becomes dizzy, right? You also experience wild brain where your thoughts are all over the place, So, right, guys, we want you to understand that if you are feeling some of the symptoms of anxiety, and some of those symptoms include sweating, excessively sweating, if you find your palms sweating, or if you're sweating just profusely, and you're just there, right, you're not moving, but you're just sweating, or if you're getting dizzy. So a main symptom of anxiety is when you are only focusing on what's in front of you, and whatever is in your peripheral vision is totally blocked out, because you have to focus on that whatever's in front of you at the moment, right? Also having wild brain, where your thoughts are all over the place, and you can't get yourself to be concrete on one specific thought. Sleeplessness, where your body's not allowing you to rest. You're at night and you cannot sleep at all, because you're up. You're up. Physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, you can't rest. And also the last one is avoidance. Anytime you're trying to avoid a specific person, or you're avoiding a specific situation, many times that's because you are feeling anxiety and you have a fear of a future. It's your body's response to a fearful future, as I told you before. All right? So, again, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank my special guest, Noel, right here. And remember,
thanks for having me.
Absolutely, through it all, win.